Hello, and welcome to Ms. PM Reads Christian Content, where we're reading All's for the Best by T.S. Arthur. And in our last video, we finished the chapter, but basically, Mr. Wilkins is hearing about and observing more of Mr. Gray's actions, and he wonders if Mr. Gray has deceived himself, believing to be a Christian, because Mr. Wilkins decides that Mr. Gray cannot be a Christian because of his behavior. Okay, so chapter 3, Rich and Rare Were the Gems She Wore, is the title of this. Have you noticed Miss Harvey's diamonds? Said a friend, directing my attention as she spoke to a young lady who stood at the lower end of the room. I looked towards Miss Harvey, and yes, as I did so, my eyes received the sparkle of her gems. Brilliant as dewdrops in the morning sunbeams, I remarked. Only less brilliant, was my friend's response to this. Only less brilliant. Nothing holds the sunlight in its bosom so perfectly as a drop of dew. Next, the diamond. I am told that the pin, now flashing back the light as it rises and falls with the swell of subsidence of her bosom, cost just $1,000. The public, you know, are very apt to find out of the money value of fine jewelry. Miss Harvey is beautiful, said I, and could afford to depend less on the foreign aid of ornament. If she had dazzled us with that splendid pin alone, returned my friend, we might never have been tempted to look beneath the jewel, far down into the wearer's heart. But diamond earrings and a diamond bracelet added, we know their value to be just $1,200. The public is specifically inquisitive, suggests some weakness or perversion of feeling, and we become eagle-eyed. But for the blaze of light with Miss Harvey has surrounded herself, I, for one, should not have been led to observe her closely. There is no object in nature which has not its own peculiar signification, which does not correspond to some quality, affection, or attribute of the mind. This is true of gems, and it's but natural that we should look for those whose qualities in the wearer of them to which the gems correspond. I admitted the proposition, and my friend went on. Boy, this is a judgy group of people so far. Okay. Gold is the most precious of all metals, and it must, therefore, correspond to the most precious attribute or quality of the mind. What is that attribute, and what is that quality? Love, I said after a pause. Love is the most precious attribute of the mind. Goodness, the highest quality. Then is it no mere fancy to say that gold corresponds to love or goodness? It is pure and ductile and warm in color like love, where silver is harder and white and shiny like truth. Gold and silver in nature are then as goodness and truth in the human soul. In one we find the riches of the world, in the other divine riches. And if gold and silver correspond to precious things of the mind, so must brilliant jewels. The diamond, how wonderful is its affection for light, taking in the rays eagerly, dissolving them and sending them forth again to the gladdened eyes in rich prismatic beauty. And to what mental quality must the diamond correspond, as it loves sun's rays, in which are heat and light? It must not correspond to the affection of things good and true. Oh, must it not? Heat of being loved and light of truth or wisdom? The wearer of diamonds, then, should have in her heart the heavenly affection to which they correspond. She should be loving and wise. I will not do to make an estimate in this way. The measure is too exacting. I will admit that. But we cannot help thinking of the quality when we look upon its sign. What a beautiful face when first seen. Do we not always associate a beautiful soul? And when a lady adorns herself with the most beautiful and costly things in nature, how can we help looking to see whether they correspond to the things in her mind? For one, I cannot, and so, almost involuntarily, I keep turning my eyes upon Miss Harvey and looking for signs of her quality. And how do you read the lady? I inquired. My friend shook his head. The observation is not favorable. Not favorable, he replied. No, not favorable. She thinks of her jewels. She is vain of them. The temptation is great, I said. The fact of so loading herself with costly jewels is in itself indicative of vanity. A third party joining us at this moment, we dropped the subject of Miss Harvey, but enough had been said to make me observe her closely during the evening. The opening line of Moore's charming lyric, "Rich and rare were the gems she wore," kept chiming in my thoughts whenever I glanced towards her and saw the glitter of her diamonds. Yet, the past gems my view now went, and I searched the fair girl's countenance for sparkle of other and richer jewels. Did I find them? We shall see. Helen, I heard a lady say to Miss Harvey, is not that Mary Gardiner? I believe so, was her indifferent answer. Have you spoken to her this evening? No, aunt, however you pronounce it. Why? Mary Gardiner and I were never very congenial. We have not been thrown together for some time, and now I do not care to renew the acquaintance. I obtained a single glance of the young lady's face. It was proud and haughty in expression, and her eyes had in them a cold glitter that awoke in me a feeling of repulsion. I wish you were congenial, the lady said, speaking partly to herself. We are not, aunt, Miss Harvey's reply, and she assumed the air of one who felt herself far superior to another with whom she had been brought into comparison. The gems do not correspond, I fear, I said to myself as I moved to another part of the room. But who is Miss Gardiner? In the next moment, I was introduced to the young lady whose name was in my thought. The face in which I looked was of that fine oval which always pleases the eye, even where the countenance itself does not light up well with the changes of thought. But in this case, a pair of calm, deep eyes, living eyes, and lips of shape most exquisitely delicate and feminine, giving warrant of a beautiful soul, caused the face of Miss Gardiner to hold the vision as by a spell. Low and very musical was her voice, and there was a discrimination in her words that lifted whatever she said above the commonplace, even though the subjects were of the hour. I do not remember how long it was after my introduction to Miss Gardiner before I discovered that her only ornament was a small, exquisitely cut cameo breastpin set in a circlet of pearls. There was no obtrusive glitter about this. It lay more like an emblem than a jewel against her bosom. It never drew your attention from her face, nor dimmed by contrast the radiance of her soul-lit light eyes. Soul-lit eyes. I was charmed from the beginning with this young lady. Her thoughts were real gems, rich and rare. And when she spoke, there was the flash of diamonds in her sentences, not the flash of mere brilliant sayings, like the gleaming of a polished sword, but of living truths that lit up with their own pure radiance every mind that received them. 2 or 3 times during the evening, Miss Harvey, radiant in her diamonds, they cost $2,200, the price would introduce itself, and Miss Gardner, almost guiltless of foreign ornaments, were thrown into immediate contact. But Miss Gardner was not recognized by the haughty wearer of gems. It was the old farce of pretense, seeking by borrowed attractions to outshine the imperishable radiance of truth. I looked on and read the lesson her conduct gave, and wondered that any were deceived into even a transient admiration. Rich and rare were the gems she wore, but they had in them no significance as applied to the wearer. It was Miss Gardner who had the real gems, beautiful as charity and pure as eternal truth, and she wore them with a simple grace that charmed every beholder who had eyes clear enough from earthy dust and smoke to see them. I never met Miss Harvey, that I do not think of the pure and heavenly things of the mind to which diamonds correspond, nor without seeing some new evidence that she wears no priceless jewels in her soul. And we're going to stop there. Interesting. We're just kind of critiquing the people in the town. All right, you guys. I do want to remind you, if you're liking the story or you liked the devotional or any of the other stories that are coming up on the channel, you want to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's free. And you click that bell tab and you'll get a notification every time a video posts. All right, you guys, have a blessed day, and I will see you next time, not tomorrow. I'm so used to the daily devotional. I'll see you next time.